Hi, we're Mel and Missy, respectfully a clinical mental health therapist and Fear Fighter life coach. But it goes beyond that. We are representatives of you.
Trash It is a brand that helps women focus on their next level of freedom by getting rid of the emotional garbage in their lives, whether it's toxic relationships, thought patterns, stigmas, etc.
We represent mothers and single mothers, daughters, wives, and divorcees, business professionals, entrepreneurs, and even Christians and ministers of the gospel.
We're trashing it all.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for attending.
So normally the next thing that happens is I will always ask Missy, so what are we trashing today? And since we have you ladies here with us, I need you to help me ask Missy, what are we trashing today? So on the count of three, we're gonna ask her, what are we trashing today? 1, 2, 3. What are we trashing today?
We are trashing the stigma of life after. Life after bad news. Life after a diagnosis. Life after a breakup. Life. So that is what we are trashing today. And real quick, Mel, I know we are live, but we cannot forget the gentlemen that are here. So, men, thank you so much.
Yes,
for
thank you,
showing up.
men.
For your ladies, thank you so much.
And so, I know we were talking about the fact that it really doesn't matter what bad news we get, right? Whether it's a cancer diagnosis, it is the loss of a job, it is the loss of a friendship. Loss of a relationship. There's always this thought of, life stops, right? And what we're doing today is really talking about the fact that life, it really doesn't stop. And because we're talking about breast cancer, there were a few stats that we did want to share with you from the Susan G. Komen Foundation.
Absolutely. And so as we know, of course, that breast cancer is raging in and everywhere. We have ones that are close to us, people that we might know, our coworkers, but just two stats that we definitely want to give out per the Susan G. Komen. 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer, but 3.8 million women are survivors.
And so as we were talking about the topic, and not just breast cancer, but just those things that hurt us. One of the 4 areas that we felt are really attacked are our mental health, our spirituality, our physical health, and our finances.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we're going to talk about each of those and how we trash the stigma that life stops. And so moving into the mental health, the emotional part, normally when we hear something, the first thing that happens is our emotional state starts to change, right? Our emotions, we want to isolate or we want to shut people out. And so we want to know from both of you, how do you think your emotional state was at the beginning of your journey versus where you are now?
For me, the beginning was hard. I think for me, mostly, I wasn't so much concerned about myself. It was my family.
Okay.
It was my children. And I had such a hard time wanting to tell them. And so for me, that was the emotions on that end of it was the fact that it was my family that I felt wouldn't be able to take it as I could have taken it. And so the emotions were very, very hard. I remember one time out of the whole process that I was going through this, I woke up in the middle of the night and I woke my husband up and I said, you're going to have to pray for me because I truly feel like I'm not going to make it. Prior to me having breast cancer, I also was diagnosed with thyroidism. And so I went through that process and it was very difficult and hard for me to go through that. So I had surgery. And soon after I healed from that, then I was hit with the breast cancer. So I felt like I was just sick for months at a time and I could not get past it. So it was hard for me. It was so hard. And there were times I didn't think I was going to make it. There were times I felt like I just can't do it anymore. So it was definitely challenging and difficult in the beginning.
So do you think your emotional state is the same now as it was then?
Definitely not. I will say that a lot of times I hear people that has been sick a lot throughout their life, and they kind of it's normal to them, so they can accept it, and they always praise God. I've been sick and I'm healed and I can just go through it. So for me personally, I've never been sick. I've dealt with other challenges, finances, marriage, my children. I dealt with those type of things, but I've never dealt with being sick. And so with this, it has definitely strengthened my faith. Now if I get a headache or something going on, God, you got this. Yeah. I feel like I've been through the worst of the worst. Absolutely. So anything that I go through now, I feel like it has built my faith up in that particular area. And also my emotions of knowing without a doubt that if God got me through this, he can get me through the next step. So yes, it has changed.
Wow. So Ms. Rhonda, what say ye?
What I got to say?
Well,
you better not cry.
I'm not. My niece already told me I can't cry. So when just like Jackie, my kids, how do I tell my kids? How do I tell my mom? I just lost my dad. How do I? So going through everything by myself, I'm going back and forth to the doctor. And it was raining one day when I'm in Newburgh and I'm walking in, and the tears start dropping, and God says, stop. And he stopped me in my tracks and he said, I'm giving you this because you're coming out with a testimony. And right then and there, I was like, okay, thank you. I dried those tears up. I went in, did what I needed to do. I didn't tell my kids for probably 2 weeks because I had to get myself mentally together. So I called my kids, I told my kids, I called my brother and I said, I need to tell you before I tell Mom. I said, because when I tell her, I need you to be beside her because I know how she's gonna react. And so, told the three of them, called my mom, told her, and she starts crying. I said, stop, we're not doing this. God's got us. I'm gonna get past this. And every day when I talk to her, she tells me, she says, girl, your faith sure has gotten stronger. I don't cry like I used to cry. I worry about finance, but I always say, God's got me. We'll be okay. All right. I'm blessed every day. When people say, good to see you, it's good to be seen. Yeah. All right. It's good, and like Melanie tell you, Melanie gets mad at me because I won't call her. What do you need? What do you want? You're so independent. But I love her for all of that. But, between her and my son, they contacted each other. What your mama need? What's she doing? Is she eating right? Do I need to drive down there? Da, da, da. I learned how to eat healthier. I learned how the things that cancer feeds off of. And between getting diagnosed and now, I've lost a total of 89 pounds. Wow. And it was nothing but, as women and as men, we need to learn what cancer feeds off and get it in our heads and say, I know that chicken sure tastes good. That fried chicken sure tastes good. Them French fries sure taste good. But you know what? I don't need that. And when you start backing off of some things that you know you don't need, it's going to help you in the long run, not only physically, but mentally also.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So I'm throwing you under the bus just for a minute.
You always do.
Right? So I remember when you first found out and you shared it with me, and you didn't want anyone to know.
No.
Because you kept saying, well, I don't want anybody in my business. And I don't need anything from anyone. And I remember challenging you that there's the possibility that even though you're looking at it like, I need to keep this to myself and I don't want anyone to know, that there's this community that really, really cares. Yeah. And why go through it alone, or with limited people that are helping when there are people who would open their arms and assist, right? And so I think that kind of goes into that thing of people we isolate.
Because we think it's a death sentence. I've been diagnosed in January. I'm gonna be gone by February. Ha! You're lying. Okay? I'm still here. And I think that's where I was. Because I kept thinking, I've lost my husband. I lost my daddy. I'm by myself. What am I gonna do? Yeah. And I think that's why I didn't want anybody to know, because I'm like, just let me just go ahead and do this. Okay? Let me just be on my own. But not Melanie, she wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
So, girl.
So Jackie, I wanna come back to you on this topic, because that was my story with Rhonda, right? With those arguments of, girl, let people help you, right? But so from you, were there any instances of, like, let me just stay to myself. I don't want people to know. I don't want to explain it to anyone. I don't need anything from anyone. Like, were there any experiences like that for you?
Honestly, no. I would say I had a wonderful support system in my family first. I tell you, I was shocked myself. Because, like I said, I've never been in situations where I was sick, but my family, I'm telling you, they were there. They supported me. I didn't have to want or ask for anything. So, I definitely had that support system. And before this, I will say I was this type of person that I didn't want any support from anybody. I always wanted to do things my own, independent. Didn't want to ask anybody to do anything. But when I went through this, I knew I needed people, because this is something that was new to me and different.
Can you say that again? You knew what?
I knew I needed somebody. I knew I needed people,
Yeah,
to be in my life to help me get through this. Yes. And so not only my family, but my church family. Oh my goodness, GHC, they were there. I mean, I had flowers dropped off at the door, cards in the mail, and I kept every card that I received through this process. My family, far and near, they were there for me. So I had a lot of support. And again, I didn't think that I would want that, because I've never ever had to need it, I would say. But during that process, it was good. It was the love. It was the, unconditional, I'm there for you. Miss Melissa is like what you, Miss Rodine, was like. This was Melissa for me. She was constantly, you sure? I can drop something off at the door. I can come. I can do this. I can do that. And so, yes, I did have that support. And it was awesome. It was a good feeling to have that.
So, okay, one last thing on this, right? Because we're all, for the most part, women who are here. Do you think it's harder to accept outside help from women that are outside your family, right? That are outside your family, that are not a part of your circle. Do you think it's more difficult when it comes to people, women who are outside of those comfort zones?
In certain situations, because you don't know the agenda.
Yeah.
You don't know to expect if it's genuine or, I just want to know what's going on, want to be in your business.
Yeah.
I heard this, I heard that, so let me see for myself. So to a certain extent, it can be that you don't want the outside people coming that you really don't know. But during this process, I felt like I could be more open to that, because it is some genuine people, women out there that really, especially if they've gone through what you've gone through,
Absolutely.
You definitely can't shut the door to that. Yes.
Wow. The one thing I hear that both of you ladies have in common is just outside of the strength, but you were thinking about your family first before you thought about yourself.
Yes.
And that right there, I do believe, is truly a foundation of what a survivor is. Because we always think of others before we think of our own selves. And so the one question I am going to ask both of you ladies, starting with you, Jackie, we know when things happen to us, the first thing, they always say, well, don't question God. Don't question God. don't question God. Well, we also know that he tells us that we can ask, we can seek, knock and it shall be open. So did you find yourself at a particular time in your life, whether at the start of your journey, the middle of your journey, or even at the end, asking God why?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Like I said, for me, being sick with the thyroid issue and never been sick in my life and having to deal with that, this may sound crazy, but what I went through with my thyroid was worse than what I went through with my cancer situation. Literally, like mentally draining. You feel like you're just going to lose your mind because the thyroid kind of functions everything in your body as a woman.
Yes.
So when that's out of whack, everything is out of whack. So there were moments where I didn't want to deal with anybody because of what I was going through, the changes in my body and everything. So, but yes, it can, it can be definitely some questions that you want to ask God.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Lord, why? Why do I have to go this? So for me, going through one sickness to the next, I did have those questions.
And of course, we hear now it seems like the key word that we hear, especially from this generation, is universe. The universe.
The universe is against me.
Yes, the universe is against me. Now, you and I, Mel and Rhonda and Jackie, we're probably of the same generation where, no, it's not the universe.
No.
It's God.
I'm a millennial.
So-
Hold on. Like, barely.
But did you even question, did you even think that he loved you? Because like you stated, you went from one illness to another illness with no breather or rest or even relaxation in between. So did you ever even have that feeling outside of questioning him, like, you say you love me, like you're never gonna leave me, but now again, I come out of one thing, I don't even get a break, but do you really love me?
I definitely didn't question that.
Wow.
I knew what I was going through was going to be a testimony. I knew that I had to be an advocate for this because I actually did not get my yearly breast exams for 5 years.
Wow.
So I went 5 years. I got my first one, and 5 years after that, I got this one. That's when I was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
So I know now that I have to be an advocate for women.
Absolutely.
This is something that you need to do on a monthly basis and a yearly basis.
Absolutely.
So for me, definitely, God has allowed this to happen to me so that I can help someone else.
Someone else, absolutely.
You know,
Right? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, because we get so busy. I think for me, I got so busy in my work, my family, that I didn't take the time for myself. And so if I had have done this in the beginning, then I probably wouldn't have gone through all that I had to go through.
Absolutely. And just a couple of episodes back, we've talked about this, hearing you say that key word, self. A lot of times we equate self-care, and self-care is different. It might be a mani, a pedi for you. It might just be sitting outside with a book, with a mimosa. It could just be taking a nap, talking to your best girlfriend, or just doing absolutely nothing. But what we also want to do is make sure that we include our health care appointments, our routine checkups, our yearly checkups, our bi-weekly, biannually checkups as part of self-care. Because too far often, especially as women, we're taking care of our husbands, making sure the bills are paid, making sure, the kids are taken care of, cooking dinner, and making sure we even have time for us. But thank you so much for definitely saying that, because too far often we forget about those appointments. Yeah. And so, Rhonda, I'm going to ask you the same thing. I know you talked about your faith in God. Did you yourself even question?
I questioned it a lot because I thought, God, here we go again. How am I going to get through this? I was working, believe it or not, I was working 3 jobs. I would get up in the morning at 5 o'clock, leave the house at 6:30, get home 8 o'clock every night. And I was doing it because I was providing for somebody else. I was taking care of my kids, making sure my kids were good. My stepmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My daddy had asked me to move home and help him take care of her. And so that was the plan. So when I get the phone call that my daddy has passed, I'm like, okay. And I get diagnosed in January. Really? Come on, God, really? You're taking me? What have I done? What have I done that I'm being punished, okay? And the more I talked to him. He said to me, you didn't do anything. You're strong enough to handle this. You know, and Mel said, I didn't want anybody. I didn't want anybody even in the neighborhood I live in, okay, to know anything.
Yeah.
Julie, who was sitting over there, she was a neighbor. She's a friend now. Wow. Because what I didn't know was that she's a former nurse. So she was just a neighbor. And we'd, hi, how you doing? And keep on moving, okay? But she would check on me every day. What did you need? Did you do this? Did you do that? My son moved in. He helped take care of me. Melanie drove down. My daughter drove down. And I kept saying, okay, God, you keep putting these people in my life. You keep putting these people in my business. I guess they're supposed to be in my business, okay? And the longer and longer, I've got more people in my business. But you know what? I'm glad y'all in my business now, okay? Because God has told me, you got this. Don't worry about it, okay? Faith over fear. I'm telling you, that's my motto all the time. Faith over fear. Because I was scared to know anything because I didn't do the research even before. Even after I was diagnosed, I didn't want to do the research. I didn't want to read. I didn't want to know. I'm just going to go step by step. And God said one day, I got you. Stop worrying. And then I started asking questions. And so the more I asked questions, the more I let people in, the more I got to realize He's there for us. And if nothing else strengthens Jackie and I, it's our faith that we've had and realized that this is a sisterhood you don't want to belong to, but you don't have a choice. Because cancer just throws you in it.
Yes.
And you find that sister and you hug that sister like she's your blood sister. And I'm thankful for my sister. I'm thankful to see another survivor on the other side.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
You know what? That deserves. It really does. Because too far often we don't celebrate each other. Like we'll celebrate each other, you know, getting a boo. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
Because we think that's celebratory worthy. I guess I'm the only one.
No.
Okay. But we don't celebrate each other when we go through.
Yeah.
And that's where our support comes from. Like, this is a win. To be live right now and to talk about this, first of all, to be alive to talk about it.
Yes.
Right.
And to help someone else, regardless of where you come from. So thank you, ladies, again for that. Wow.
Right.
You know what? We are live, and I know I'm probably just going off a little bit, but I just had to say that.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear and see too much about sisterhood when the storms come. You know, like you stated, she was a neighbor, but now she's a friend. Right. And that's what it's about. A closed mouth doesn't get fed, and I'll tell people all the time, I love to eat, and I'm going to ask questions. So if I ever go through anything, this mouth right here is going to be open. I'm going to text, and I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to ask those questions, and that's what we wanted to do today, is really to make this about just asking those questions. And so, Rhonda, again, going back to the questions, did you even question if God even loved you?
Yes.
Wow.
Everything that I was going through.
Yeah.
Why me? Again?
I think God brought us.
He did.
Wow.
He did. God brought us together, you know. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for Julie, and I'm thankful for everybody. You guys have no idea. I told my niece when I walked in, she said, TT, please don't cry. And I've been nervous all day about doing this, but you know what? It's called strength from God to be able to sit here with these two ladies, putting this on, and us just talking.
Yes.
Because I know you've broken down a lot of times talking about it. I break down. But I read something this morning in my devotion. It said, when you can talk about it and stop crying about it, you know you're on the winning edge.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think one of the things that we always talk about is, you know, being transparent and being open with your sisters, right?
Exactly.
And so a lot of times it does take, sometimes it takes a challenge, right? And sometimes we get into these situations and we then find out, like, life is not meant to be lived alone.
That's right.
It is not meant to be lived in this box where we're so closed off. You know, I can't even imagine what it would be like to go through anything without having the support of family and friends. And I think for me personally, it has been those challenges in life that really solidified, say, our relationship, or really solidified my sisterhood with Alethea, you know, and just several others. Because we learned that, hey, even though you're trying to do everything on your own, and because y'all, like, keep it 100. We like pretending like we have it all together.
Yeah.
And especially if you are in corporate America, or you have a professional career, no one wants to look like they don't have it all together.
That's right.
You know, and even if you're shaking in your boots inwardly, be doggone, we are never going to show that to the world.
Yeah.
But sometimes the world has to know, the world should know, right? That even though you can be a strong woman, it does not say you don't need anything, right? It doesn't say that you don't have weak moments, or that you don't have things that are stressful, right? And so to say that I need help over here doesn't take away to my independence over here as a woman. And I think that for me at 40 has been a lesson that I have continued to learn even more as I've gotten older. Because I'll be the first to say, I would never want anyone to know my business. Yeah, like, I mean, that would not be my normal character. But I think once you learn, and then you start to understand, like, man, if I would have never shared that, you never would have known that your neighbor was a nurse, right? Or I would never have known that there were so many women around me who, you know, had lost kids, you know, had lost babies, or had been through just other challenges, right? And so it breeds a community.
It does.
And sometimes I think we shun away from community because of various experiences we've had. And so I think, you know, that is definitely something that we see in each other, and that we see in you guys, is just being able to be open and be vulnerable, and be willing to have others come in and just lift you when you need
Absolutely.
it. Right. And so we want to segue into our next part. And I know when we worked at Bossy together, at one time we had a walking group. Remember that? Mm-hmm. We had this group that walked in the halls of Bossy. It was after school, right? It was after school, right? Because we were trying to be fine. and we weren't the best at going to the gym. So we thought, okay, let's just do it where we are. Because we spent so much time here. So let's just make it work. So when it comes to physical health, do you see where your physical health was challenged during this process?
Oh, you would have to ask that, huh? Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, I think that may have been one of the top things at my list that I challenged mostly with. First of all, you know, losing my hair, you know, and then when I was going through the chemo, and, you know, during COVID time too, they was like giving me so many steroids, and, you know, because they wanted to keep cancer patients out of the hospital because of COVID. And yes, I gained a lot of weight. And so I was definitely discouraged. And of course, you know, I wasn't eating properly before this. But after I realized that I have to get my mental and my physical body back together, that has been a journey. But as of today, I have been trying to eat healthy, a lot more healthy, exercising, just trying to get my body back, because I have a lot of aches and pains through having the chemo and all that stuff too. So I I've never really had any other challenges before this, like high cholesterol, diabetes, or nothing like that. But I do have high cholesterol now. And so my doctor, she didn't want to put me on medication. So she's like, you have to exercise and you have to watch what you eat. So I'm on that journey now.
Okay.
And, but yeah, before that, it was hard.
Wow.
It was definitely hard.
Rhonda?
Physically, do you see where you've had any physical health challenges or changes in your physical health?
Letting go of this. Because Mel tried to get me to cut it, and I said, oh, no, never. It'll just have to fall out. And it did until it started falling out. My son took a picture and sent it to her. And she said, yes, it's finally cut. It's finally gone. So physically, yes, I didn't know it that because I wasn't eating, I was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's how the weight started losing weight. And I was having a hard time breathing. I don't even know if Melanie knows this, but I drove myself from my house.
I'm side-eyeing you right now.
I drove from my house all the way to Newburgh because I couldn't breathe. And I'm in the car and I'm having a hard time breathing. And we get in and they test me for COVID. They say, you don't have COVID. Come to find out, I had developed pneumonia. And so they put me in the hospital. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be here. And so for 3 days, I sat in the hospital with only one visitor being able to come see me. And that was my son. And he would come every day and just check on me and see how I was doing. And couldn't hold food down, couldn't stand the taste of anything. Had a walker, and they said, you're gonna have to take this walker. And I said, not me. Not me. I'll let y'all know I'm very vain, okay? I'm not getting this walker, okay? And my son said, yes, she is. He happened to walk in, this one of the therapists was there. Yes, she is. I take the walker, I take it home. I used it for about a week or two, and I said, in the garage, you going. Because I don't need this, and God said, I'm making you stronger. And I thank him that I have not been on that walker, okay, since then. I use it now to take the trash out.
So when you talk about health, of course, and we know, of course, with health, going to the doctor comes a lot of bills. We know when sickness comes, a lot of times you might have to take FMLA, take sick leave. And so with that being stated, of course, that brings us to finances. And even we are in a season now that you don't even have to be sick in order to have a challenge, right? With finances. So if you ladies can tell us real quick, how challenging was that for you as far as finances are concerned? Jackie, I know you're a business owner, self-employed, and I do believe, Rhonda, that you were still employed. So, you know, you have two different types of financial challenges. So if you can talk to us real quick about that season of just, and I don't want to say lack, but just what appeared to be the uncertainty of what finances could look like.
So I have a testimony on that. When I was diagnosed with cancer, and that was in November, my husband retired. You know, he could retire. I still had to work, but so he, so we at first we thought we didn't have any more health insurance. And so my husband said, well, we're going to look for some health insurance, and we started looking, and we got some. And so I started going through the process of going to the doctors, getting the chemo and everything. And so I thought that we did not have health insurance. So we were concerned. We were like, what are we going to do? Because we're going to have all these bills and different things like that. And so he contacted his previous job, the insurance people, and they said, oh, no, you guys have insurance and you don't have to worry about anything. Wow. And I'm telling you, I can't do anything but thank God for that, because we literally thought that we was going to have a struggle with the finances. And so we that happened. And we also, my job, my business, right before I got sick, I was actually thinking about not working as much. And so I ended up hiring a wonderful, wonderful director, assistant director. And when I hired her, that's when I got sick. So I was concerned about the business. I was like, how are we gonna do this? How, going to keep the business going because I won't be able to be there. And she stepped right in and started running my business and has done a fantastic job, phenomenal job. So I didn't have to worry about that. But yes, God, financially, I can't say that we struggled through that. God just showed us miracles after miracles in that area. And like I said, to not think that we had insurance, to knowing that we did was definitely a blessing.
Right. Rhonda?
Like I said, I was working 3 jobs. And so I called my first job and told them everything was going on. And they said, don't worry about it. You got insurance. You'll be fine. You have FMLA. And then I started praying, okay, God, what about these other 2 jobs? And then I looked up one day and I was like, not get, because if you don't work, you don't get paid. I looked up one day and I said, I ain't missed a bill. I ain't missed a bill. I said, okay, God, if you tell me that you gonna make a way and I can quit these other 2 jobs, I'm quitting these other 2 jobs.
Yeah.
I turned in my resignation to those other 2 jobs. I'm working 1 job, okay? I've been blessed through my church, through my friends. People would just, they stopped calling me one time. Melissa said, we just gonna stop calling you. We just gonna start bringing you stuff. They would drop water off. They would drop food off. They would drop cards off with money in it. I'd get checks from the church. I just kept getting blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing. And I never missed a beat. I called the other day about a bill that I had. And I was asking, could I have a deferment? Because I'm just kind of going back and things are starting to get tight. And I told him what was going on. He said, did you know that you had disability on that loan and you can get all the money that you paid back from January to now?
Wow.
And he said that, I went, whoo! He said, you okay? And I said, yeah, just another blessing. That's all it is, okay? But you never know. If you put it in his hands,
That's right.
he's going to keep giving you blessings over and over and over again. Yeah. And I just thank him.
Wow. All right. Wow.
So we are coming to the end of this episode of Trashed It, where we have been talking about the stigma that life stops.
Exactly.
And if there are any questions or comments from our audience, please feel free. And in the meantime, do you ladies have any closing remarks, any closing encouragement for the audience?
I would just say with the breast cancer issue or cancer period, as women, we have to take care of ourselves. I know, Melissa, you touched on that. The only thing I can say is don't be like me. Don't wait for so long and then you got to get that news, and things could have been taken care of much better if you had went forth and did it before. So my encouragement to all the ladies is to take care of your bodies. When something doesn't seem right or feel right, make sure you get it checked. But also, I want to encourage everyone that if you have not been getting your yearly mammograms, please do that. That is so important. I don't miss any appointments now. I don't miss a dentist appointment, an eye doctor appointment, anything, because I want to know what's going on with my body.
Absolutely.
And as much as I love my family, my business, my children, I have to think about myself. Yeah. And that's what we have to do as women. We have to think about ourselves and our bodies. And when we need to sit down, we need to sit down.
Yeah.
When we need a break, we need a break.
Right.
So I encourage everyone, if you have not been doing your self-breast exams and you haven't been getting those mammograms, please do so. It's very important that we do that.
Right. Just to piggyback what Jackie said, go get tested. You never know. And if you've got a male in your life, he needs to get tested also. Because I did not realize that men can also get breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so your children, your loved ones, everyone, your friends, encourage them. There's Tom Joyner used to do take a family member to the doctor.
Yeah, take a
loved one to the doctor.
Dr. Day.
We need to start that back again.
Yeah.
Take a loved one to the doctor and have someone take you.
All right, so With that being said, I think we've trashed it.
I think we have trashed.
I think we've trashed it.
Yes.
So thank you guys.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Hanging with us. We are done.
It is a wrap. Thank you so much.
All right.
As always, we thank our listeners for tuning in. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trashed It! Podcast. You can listen to our podcast on various podcast platforms. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trashed It! Podcast. And please chit chat with us throughout the week on our social media channels, Facebook at Trashed It and Instagram at We Trashed It.